Let's do this.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, guys, and welcome in to 14P. We are doing a little game of Dynasty Keep Trade Cut, and I am joined by the one, the only, Jay Felicio at GMenJ on Twitter. What is going on, Jay?
What's up, man? You know, I did a video with Justin a few weeks ago. Now I get to do one with you. I might as well just join the team. I know. It's I like you a lot better than the pumpkin. So
yeah. I mean, most people do.
Wait, we're not recording yet, right?
No. This isn't live. Don't worry about that.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, what's going on, man? What's been new with you? What are you working on right now?
Well, over at the team at Front Yard Fantasy, we, as always, we've got the game show Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We got got some stuff we do with FanDuel on Friday nights, and if this is coming out before the draft or when
this is coming out? Yes. So if you're watching this, it's the Wednesday before the draft.
So day 2, we are doing this is breaking news. It hasn't even been announced yet, even though it'll be announced by the time this comes out. We're going to have a draft stream on FanDuel's YouTube and Twitch. The Front Yard Fantasy team, me, myself, Josh, JL, and Simon are all going to pretty much just hang out, play some games, talk about day 2 drafts, and go from there.
That's awesome, dude. That'll be a blast. We'll be tuning into that for sure. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. And if you go to friends of this channel, FYF, where Jay is producing content, is all the way at the bottom there. So go ahead and click on that as well. Also, we have our Elijah Moore giveaway that we are announcing tomorrow. So if you haven't entered, make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, DM us on Twitter, either me at Marco_14P or the 14P account at 14P_fantasy. And we are going to be announcing the Elijah Moore signed jersey winner tomorrow. So make sure you do that. We're going to be announcing on Twitter. We might even do a little YouTube release as well. But make sure to tune in. We also have our Patreon that is going on right now, which is awesome. We've got tons of rankings that are updated. We're going to be updating them, I think, 3 or 4 days after the draft. So you are going to have the most up-to-date stuff that we are releasing if you subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/14P fantasy. We got rookie rankings. We got dynasty rankings. They're all tiered. And you also get access to some of our videos a little bit early. So make sure to subscribe over on Patreon as well. All right, Jay, that's enough of that. Let's jump into some football here. We are talking Dynasty Keep Trade Cut, and we got 3 really difficult running backs to navigate here. We've got David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, and Elijah Mitchell. Let's start with our keeps here. I'm going to throw to you first, Jay. Who are you keeping of this group?
This was really tough. Like, I was looking at, I pulled up the points per game. I'm like, of course, Mitchell and Montgomery were tied at 15 points per game in PPR. Josh Jacobs was 15.1, so they were virtually all
better.
tied.
So I guess you
right, exactly right. I mean, that's obvious. With that being said, I am keeping Josh Jacobs, and I'll go into why a little more. I chose him over my trade because I feel like if, without looking at the stats, and you were to just throw these 3 guys out and say which one of these guys had the lowest points per game, I feel like most people would say Josh Jacobs. Right. I feel like he gets a bad rap because he, hasn't, everybody's expected him to have a lot more involvement in the passing game. Well, he did this year. He had 54 catches, 300. He had the most receptions, the most receiving yards. I'm really excited what this Las Vegas offense is going to look like with Devontae Adams, whether they have Darren Waller, which I still think he's going to be on the team. I know there's rumors that he might go to Green Bay, but I don't know if you saw, Derek Carr tweeted out about this and said, not a chance. So I think they want to keep Derek Carr happy. Josh McDaniels coming over from the Patriots has already talked about it. He wants to get Josh Jacobs involved in the screen game more.
Yep.
I really feel like out of these guys, Josh Jacobs has the safest floor and is still, I don't think he's got, top 5 running back potential, but I could easily see a scenario where he winds up as a back-end RB1. So I feel like he's got the best chance to return value.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. if you guys have been following me on Twitter at all in the last like couple of months, you know that 2022 is my year of Josh Jacobs. I am all in on Josh Jacobs this year. I think this year he could have his best season. And so if this was redraft, Josh Jacobs would be my keep. We're talking Dynasty, so I am actually going to say that he is not my keep. I'll talk about where I have him and why in a little bit, but I am actually going to keep David Montgomery, and it's just because I'm a Bears fan. No, I'm just kidding. But
fair enough. End of show. We're done.
Right, yeah, that's it. No, but I'm keeping David Montgomery. To me, he's the guy who averaged the most targets per season. You know, he's averaging around 51 targets a season, and that's with a rookie season where he only saw, I think, 33 targets. I think that's actually likely to rise this in 2022 and beyond because of this offense. He's a really important part of this offense right now. Sure, they might draft a wide receiver, or they most likely will draft a wide receiver, but he's one of the established pieces on this offense, along with Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. So I think him being involved in the passing game as much as he is, and as much as he's likely projected to be in 2022 and beyond, pending some contracts, I think that he has probably got the highest PPR floor because of what he does in the receiving game. Josh Jacobs wasn't far behind him. He's, I think, around 45 targets a season, but a lot of that was actually inflated by last season where he saw 64 targets or 63 targets on the season. The other thing for David Montgomery is, along with those 51 target average, he was also on pace for around 295 carries last year. So I think he just has the perfect combination of volume when you look at what he does in the receiving game and what he does on the ground. And I think he is going to be a really pivotal part of what this offense does, even if Justin Fields steals a couple goal line scores and a little bit of the rushing opportunity there.
Yeah, and we'll go right into the trade.
Yeah, let's do it.
My trade is David Montgomery, and for the reason that you said, I am a little concerned, not overly concerned by any means, but you know, the one reason I like Josh Jacobs over these other two guys is he's the only guy who doesn't have a quarterback that you really have to worry about stealing rushing production, stealing the rushing touchdowns. Believe it or not, David Montgomery is older than Josh Jacobs. So
what's the age difference? Do we know it?
Well, technically they're both 24 years old, but David Montgomery will turn 25 on June 7th. So
okay.
It's slightly older.
Yeah.
But I feel everybody feels like Josh Jacobs is a lot older than he is. You know, you go back and forth, you know, carries and things of that nature. But the reason I went with David Montgomery, I feel like they're going to have similar production on the field. And I feel like you're going to get a better return for David Montgomery. I do like David Montgomery. I'm with you. I like all three of these guys, but I feel like I could get a better package for David Montgomery, but there's some question marks. You know, this team is, you know, as a Bears fan, you know, they're tearing it all
more
down.
than some, you can say.
Right. A lot of question marks. They're tearing it all down, and that scares me. Even though he's involved in the passing game,
you
know, this is the type of team that's going to be playing from behind a lot. You're not going to be in run heavy script games. Run heavy.
I think that was right.
Well, you know what I'm trying to say. With the additions in Las Vegas, you know, they're not going to be able to stack the box. No, the Bears don't have a first round pick, so they're starting in the second round. You know, they need a lot of help on the offensive line, which, you know, the Raiders don't have a fantastic offensive line either, but they got plenty of picks. They've got that number one wide receiver. I mean, honestly, the top three receiving options on the Raiders are, I like Darnell Mooney, but I mean, you're talking Waller and Hunter Renfrow from a production standpoint in fantasy. They're probably, you take both of those guys right now over Darnell Mooney, just in a redraft sense.
I don't think I could put Renfrow over him, but I get what you're saying.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. And he's the third option.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think that's the bigger point, right?
Right, exactly. I love Darnell Mooney. Actually, don't tell Justin I said this, but he's the guy who got me looking into Darnell Mooney. I'm like, man, I really like Darnell Mooney a lot going into this season. But I feel like the offensive lines are in a similar place. The weapons on the Bears aren't as good as the Raiders, so it's going to take off. The defense is going to focus on David Montgomery, a lot more than they will on Josh Jacobs.
That's fair, yeah.
And, the head coach is a defensive head coach. I don't see them, coming in and blowing it out of the water with creativity and in offensive plays. So I feel like similar production, you're going to get a better return for David Montgomery. That's why I went that route.
Yeah, no, I like it. So for me, my trade is Josh Jacobs, and it breaks my heart a little bit because, like I said, I think if you have to trade him in this, if you look at this group and you're like, okay, I'm trading Josh Jacobs, 2022 is going to be a really sucky year for you because you're going to watch him be a stud, I think. Yeah. I think, like you said, I think him and Montgomery will have similar end of season production, but I think where Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery differ is they're going to get all of their points, their fantasy points, very differently, where I think David Montgomery will get a lot of reception points. So in PPR, he's definitely inflated, where if you play standard still, Josh Jacobs is the easy answer because Josh Jacobs he's averaging only like 245 carries this season, or he was on pace for that. And I think that's likely to rise because of all the things you said, Jay, and what this offense is going to be doing. He's definitely a threat for 12 touchdowns, maybe a little bit more because of what this offense is going to be able to do. So I think his 2022 value is going to get higher as we get closer and closer to the season. And because of that, that's why I think he's actually a trade for me, because after that, both of these guys have contract questions. Are they going to land with their prospective teams, or are they going to go somewhere else? I think Josh Jacobs is going to garner more interest on the trade market or through free agency, I mean. Sure. And so because of that, I think this might be the last year we see him with this team. And Josh Jacobs, I think, has proven that he's a very good player, but he's not an elite player by any means. And so not knowing where he's going to be in year 2 of this trade or year 3 of this trade, that's the reason why I think I'm willing to move him, because I think David Montgomery is going to be a much cheaper option, which is kind of crazy because they've been so similar. But with what this Bears cap space situation is going to be looking like, he's going to be a really easy guy to bring back on a team-friendly deal, which is what I think happened. So I think Josh Jacobs is the move for me, or the guy I'm trading, because I think his 2022 value is so high compared to what David Montgomery's is with all of the new pieces they've added.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Like I said, it was tough. I would honestly be fine with keeping either one of these guys. Right. The main thing for me is I was sitting here thinking like, all right, well, honestly, I think you can get more in the trade market for Montgomery. That was the deciding factor for me.
Totally. Well, and I mean, that's what it's going to be with all 3 of these guys. That's why we do these, because it's like they're all guys you want to keep,
Right, exactly. It's not just
both of us are cutting the same person in Elijah Mitchell. So I'm going to pass to you, Jay. Why is he the cut for you?
I decided it about a minute before we went live because I was debating that. Like I was like, all right, I'm going with Josh Jacobs. Now who do I want to keep? I mean, who do I want to cut? And the main thing for me is I don't think Deebo Samuel's going anywhere. I do think Trey Lance is going to start. So not only do you have a quarterback, but you also have a wide receiver that you have to worry about stealing touchdowns, stealing rushing production. He also doesn't have the draft capital that these other guys have. Oddly enough, even in 11 games, he had the most rushing production out of any of these guys. I love Elijah Mitchell. I think he's going to have a fantastic season, but you put me in this situation, and I just feel like out of the
my fault
players, yeah, thanks a lot. He's got the most red flags.
Yeah, totally. So I agree with you. I don't really have too much to add. To me, his target volume is much lower. Even if he were to have played a full season, he was on pace for around 31, 32 targets, which is 10 to 20 less than the other 2. He was on pace for around 320 carries, but I think what we saw from Elijah Mitchell, and obviously every running back gets banged up and gets dinged up, but in his rookie season with the draft capital he has, him missing time, if that is something that is going to be a thing with how they use him, just being like this workhorse, like in between the tackles kind of runner, that's going to wear on him as it already did in his rookie season. And they might not be afraid to say, hey, let's just bring in another guy, because we've seen San Francisco do that. I don't like to lean on the narratives of, well, San Francisco running backs, but they've, outside of last season, we really have only seen that. So it's more likely that last season was a mirage of who's healthy than, hey, we've actually changed that we're going to lock into a running back. So I do think Elijah Mitchell is a very, very good fantasy running back. I think he's a very good NFL running back. But like you said, he's got the most red flags to me, because I again, like you said as well, I think Lance is going to be a major thorn in Elijah Mitchell's touchdown opportunity and rushing opportunity in 2022 and beyond.
Yeah. Plus you have Debo. Whether Debo's there or not, I do still
Right.
think Debo's going to be there. He might
Yeah.
not. If his value will go up, in my opinion, if Debo's gone. Obviously, you don't have to worry
Right.
about him stealing the touches. But there's this false narrative out there, and I fell victim to it because I was doing some research, and I thought that was the case, that San Francisco is one of the run heaviest teams in the league. They just have good production. They actually are one of the pass heaviest teams in the entire league. One of the most, I think it was, let me pull it up real quick. I think it was like top 5. They were definitely top 10 in pass attempts last year. It's just the production. And like you said, with the draft capital, with the injuries that he's dealt with, San Francisco's not afraid to just plug in the next guy and go.
Yeah.
So he's got the least job security at any of these guys. It was tough, but he was definitely the cut.
Yeah, totally. I think he's the one who has the most opportunity to prove us wrong, but he's also got the most opportunity to prove us right, if that makes sense.
No, 100%.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for tuning into Dynasty Keep Trade Cut. We're going to have another one dropping in the near future. We might even have some fun mock draft variations coming out after the NFL draft happens. So stay tuned, subscribe to the channel. Jay, thanks so much for hanging out. Can you remind everybody before we leave where they can find your content and where you're at on Twitter?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at GMenJ. Best thing you can do is follow our YouTube page. We're at the bottom as Friends of 14P. It's Front Yard Fantasy on YouTube.
Our only friend, I think.
Oh, well, that makes me feel special.
Yeah, you are. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Peace.